Nick.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV Velocities in Music. Today we're going to review Iron and Wine's second album, Our Endless Numbered Days. A great album title, in my opinion. Iron and Wine is an artist that, and by the way, you guys voted for this album when we do our bi-weekly schedule voting. You guys picked this album. We decided we needed to do more Iron and Wine.
Yeah.
Both of us hadn't had nearly as much exposure as we would want to for Sam Beam and his Iron and Wine project, and that's something that after we reviewed, oh man, I'm just completely blanking on his new album's name.
Kiss each other clean.
Kiss each other clean. My apologies, guys. Kiss yourself clean.
Kiss each other clean.
Kiss each other clean. I'm not gonna kiss
what
you.
Am I
don't know what you're trying to do to me here. Anyways. And I had listened to Iron and Wine before reviewing that album, here and there, in kind of spots and patches. Never really dug into albums.
I was thinking Dance Yourself.
I know you were, actually,
okay.
from
Sorry, I had to think. Keep going.
Anyways, so I was really into that sound and other bands that I had liked, and while hearing Iron and Wine before, I think that is something that a lot of people out there really love, and especially as an indie folk artist that really people get give a lot of credit to, give a lot of attention to, something that I know you're going to address. And there's a lot of stuff out there like that. For some reason, I just hadn't gravitated towards this yet. This gives us an opportunity to go back and see it, plus it's the album that you guys voted for the most. Now, this being Sam Beam's second full-length album, it marked a big change in his sound, and a lot of his fans kind of didn't like it at first from the research I've done, and that's because it sounds so much cleaner. It wasn't recorded in a bedroom. It wasn't recorded on a 4-track. This was actually a full studio sound. It sounds very crisp and clean and has a full album sound to it, which is something that I actually like very much. And you know, but what really got me about this album at first is when I figured out how it was structured. Here you have 12 tracks, and this album is structured very, very uniquely, and I'll explain why. You know, here you have this guy who's making these indie folk songs. Some of them rock out a little bit more than others, and some of them don't. Now, a good handful of them are this creepy kind of just slowed down, kind of finger-plucked banjo songs that just kind of have this dark mood to them that I just love. Track 1 is like that, track 3 is like that, track 5 is like that. And to tell you the truth, if you notice, that's all the odd-numbered tracks of the first half of the album. They oscillate, and then in between them, they have these really sweet, almost Nick Drake-esque, finger-picked, you know, indie folk songs that I think are quite good. But it's the variety there, how he's constantly switching that on you. If he had separated that and grouped songs together, it would have sounded way different. You'd have almost 2 EPs work together. So I thought that was cool. But now keep in mind, that's only the first half of the album. And then track 7, Radio War, hits, and the whole thing shifts. That song is much more sentimental. It's slower, a lot more instrumental. It's a strummed ukulele. It's a change in the sound. And then from there you have, I think, what is 5 more very mature tracks. These are the tracks that I could tell Beam really cared about. The songwriting was more advanced, more robust, and the lyrical content was so much more sentimental, and his vocal performance was so much deeper, and that's something that I really valued. That's the biggest thing that I noticed about this album, was just how unique it was in its structure. Tom, what did you think about the general sound of Our Endless Numbered Days?
I like Iron and Wine. I do. And I like this album. And I want to put out there that I'm going to give this a good score. Not super high, but if it sounds like I'm being more critical than I normally would be, it's more in response to the fact that I think this is slightly overhyped. Now, my score will not reflect that. Maybe some of the things I'm going to say will, but I want to put that disclaimer out there, because to tell you the truth, while I enjoyed this album, this is good songwriting. It's a good vocal and instrumental performance from Sam Beam, you know, and the couple, you know, guest vocalists he has on here or whatever. I've never quite understood why he is valued so much more than artists who are doing similar things. People like William Fitzsimmons, and even like Joshua Radin and Damian Rice. Well, I enjoy all those other three, you know, and there's tons of others out there. I like them all. I don't really see why this stands out too much. I think if there's one thing I could say that it is, there's more sincerity here. That's the big thing that stuck out to me. It's believably personal and meaningful. But at the same time, listening to this, to tell you the truth, just the bare simplicity of it, while that's not necessarily a bad thing, I couldn't help but think of it in context of Kiss Each Other Clean.
Right.
And it made me value that almost a little more because I feel like that album's so much more adventurous. But, you know, really when it comes down to it, quite a few of these songs are pretty memorable. Quite a few of these songs, I was kind of like, that was good while I was listening to it, but then by the time I was to the next song, I didn't really remember it too much. I enjoyed this album, but it didn't blow me away. I don't really know what more I can say.
I think that I have more good things to say, definitely, than bad things. I mean, I really got into how low the volume is on this record.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And that's something that it forces you to listen. I think that is kind of one of the things that keeps people out of this album, is just how inaccessible it is from the standpoint that you have to listen for it. There's not a lot of big, flashy choruses here. And even in a lot of stuff, and even in the artists that you just mentioned about the other singer-songwriters, and this is more of an authentic sound, I think, because it's so much more natural. Sam Beam writes these tracks. Most of them are, you know, it might be, you know, here's a verse and maybe a little bit of a chorus part, but it's more of a linear structure of,
more of a refrain rather than a chorus.
Exactly, a refrain rather than a chorus, where the song just kind of flows in a linear pattern. And I like that a lot. I think that brings a good variety to it. And he's able to do bigger, more robust songs later on the album and let this thing kind of open up for you at the end and get more sentimental. I like that. And I like the fact that he forces you to listen really closely since it's so quiet at all times. And I think that's kind of a cool aspect. And I think that's something that it's kind of those who listen will be rewarded sort of mentality. Other artists have done that. A lot of metal music does that, for just in the exact polar opposite, just with loud volume. And I think that's one thing that I like. Now, Tom, you mentioned that this is something that I'm just going to gravitate more towards. This is kind of my roots. I love music like this, so I definitely like that. And I'm feeling pretty strong about this album. I'm going to give it an 84.
I'm going to give it a 72.
And I feel like overall, that kind of gives us a good indication. It kind of comes to who you are as a person, and really, as a music listener, not in a person in general, but if you're into the indie folk stuff, this is something that you should definitely check out. Singer-songwriter, indie folk stuff, and a guy who knows how to write songs and does it from the heart. This is what you want to listen to. If you're looking for something a little bit more, you know, with a little bit more experimental, a little bit more flash, stay away. It's going to be somewhere in there, and I think our score kind of reflects right in the middle. What did you guys think about this album? What's your favorite Iron and Wine album, and how do you think this fits in the ranking of Sam Beam's albums? I'm interested to hear what you think, and I know Tom and I want to start a discussion about it on YouTube, www.youtube.com/velocitymusic, and our website, velocitiesmusic.com. We still call it that. And also, please follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, check out Ian's Tumblr blog. He does our written content and daily blogging of all the stuff that's going on in the music community today. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.
Came to me.